All
Yeah,
right. So
exactly.
you're gonna tell the story that most people don't tell.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's what you're doing. Yeah, yeah, because some of these new DJs have no clue.
they don't know. They don't know.
They don't even know what was going on and how much it was struggle and some of the things that we experience as black DJs within the music industry.
And I want to get into all of that. And who are we
Mhm.
speaking with?
Andre Collins, DJ Andre Collins.
Thank you so much, Andre, for the interview. For those that don't know, who is Andre Collins?
Okay, who am I? All right, so I'm a DJ who started out in the 70s, early 80s, and I'm one of the people who is fortunate enough to have mentors such as Nicky Ciano, T. Scott, and I followed them and grew, and I was on the club scene for over 30 years now. It's been, yeah, a little bit over 30 years. And I played in a lot of places. And um, I hope that I left something like a mark behind me because I learned from the DJs who, to me, they had a sound of their own. So I wanted to incorporate my own sound, and that was through experience and through life lessons and studying the art of DJing.
Perfect. Um, let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in the Bronx, um, in Gun Hill Projects. I was born and raised in Gun Hill Projects, and I lived there for about 35 years.
And then your family was Jehovah Witness?
Yes, my mother was a Jehovah Witness. My father wasn't, but my mother kind of wore the pants and the skirt, and so she took all four of us because I had three. I'm the baby of four. I had three older sisters, and we were all brought up within the Jehovah Witness religion.
Um, you started going clubbing with your sisters. Where did they take you?
They took me to the La Martinique and the Cheetah. They knew there was a promotional guys called the Dow Twins, and they used to give parties at those two clubs. And so they were able to bring me in at like 15 years old because they knew I could dance really good. And they liked to show me off to their friends how good of a dancer I was. And so that was my first live experience actually hearing mixing. Um, and it was good, but it didn't really catch my spirit. But I was having fun, being around older people and looking at the club, and and it excited me. But I got the bug when I really went to the gallery.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's down the road in the story.
Yeah.
you
So,
know, yeah.
La Martinique, do you remember who the resident DJ was?
I don't. I don't
Mm.
remember the resident DJ of the Martinique, and I don't remember the DJ from the Cheetah either.
Where was La Martinique?
It was in what was later called the Ice Palace on 57th Street, and what was it? Fifth? It wasn't Fifth. Madison. I believe it was Madison and 57th Street.
Gotcha. And where was the Cheetah?
Cheetah was in the 30s,
Gotcha.
and I don't know the exact cross street or anything.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about the gallery. What is the
Oh,
gallery?
okay.
What is the gallery for those that don't know?
Okay, so the gallery was, I'm sure everybody's heard of the term underground. Like, that was one of the after-hour clubs for predominantly Black and Latino and whites, of course, but it was catered to a gay clientele and a very artsy clientele. And so they originally were located on 23rd Street and 7th Avenue. Then they moved to Houston and Mercer, which was right down the street from David's Loft, the Loft. And that's where the bug hit me. That's when I started really realizing that you can be expressive with your music. Like you could actually convey a message through putting certain songs together, and you can touch people's souls. You can enhance the party. You can shift gears. You could do all these things through music. And I was like, wow. I used to stand in front of Nicky Ciano. He would play, and I would watch him, and then I watched the people. And it was just, to me, that was like an amazing thing, that this man, this one person was not manipulating, but kind of like guiding the people's spirits through the music. Like, what a creative thing to do. So that's where I got the, I said, I'd like to do this too, but I like to do it my way. Like, I'm going to find my own sound because, I think for me, I've gone to like the Paradise Garage, anniversary parties, and I went to the block party that they had in front of the garage. And I don't have to look at the booth to know when a certain DJs may be playing because they actually have their own sound. Like there's a something that they do, or the song that they pick. If you listen to different DJs and study them, you'll say, oh, okay, I hear, yeah, that's Francois, because Francois was playing at one of the garage parties, the block party, and he put on a version of D-Train, Keep On. And it was a version I never heard, and I knew that had to be him, like, because I know his history from doing edits and working for Prelude and all that kind of stuff. So like there's certain, I wanted to incorporate my own sound, and I think I did. I think I did it. Yeah.
And then going back to the gallery, what were the songs, like the anthems at that time, that really made people turn, Were there particular songs that at that time at the gallery was like, oh, this is one that made the crowd go crazy?
Yeah. I can remember a couple of nights. One night was the Stevie Wonder's album, Songs in the Key of Life. Nicky played half of the album record by record before the night even started. And then throughout the night, he incorporated all those same songs and more into the party. So that was like our introduction to that album for the first time. And I remember one night he played Chez La Femme, and I had never heard it. And the whole crowd was going, oh. I mean, like right on point, like right with the song. And like those. And then there was the night that he played, Walter Gibbons did the remix of Hit and Run. And Walter was the light man at the gallery. So they put on the remix. Well, first they put on the original. Then they put on the remix. Then Lolita Holloway came out and started singing. And like the whole place lost it. Like they lost it. Yeah. And that was the first time we ever heard the remix. So yeah, those are some of the stronger memories I have of the gallery.
And then you had a residency at the Mark Ballroom. What is the Mark Ballroom for those that don't know?
Okay, so the Mark Ballroom was a ballroom that you could rent out. So different people gave events there. And I gave an event with a gentleman named Carl Lewis, not the Carl Lewis, the track guy, but Carl Lewis was his name. And we did a party for gay black men or men of color. And we did it was my first introduction to a big event. That was my first big event that I ever did for the gay community. And it was the night that kind of solidified the beginning of my career. And it was an amazing party. We had over 500 people at the event. So it was a place that you could, other people did things there just as well. But we would do something once a month, and that would be our party.
Wow. Um, Talk to us about the Paradise Garage. What is the Paradise Garage?
What is it? Okay, so the garage was, I don't know. It's hard to put into words what it was because it became like a community for me. Yeah, I was there from the onset. So the first party that we went to had it was in the lounge area, which they later on called the lounge, but it was a big hole in the middle of the floor with sawdust, and there were barricades all around the circle. And Larry was on the left side of the room, and the speakers were all around the room, and we partied so hard, like all of us came out of there dirty with the sawdust all over it, you know. But the garage became bigger than just the the club that it was, you know, because it was an after hours club, and it catered to everybody. Um, but in order to get in, you had to know a member. So, and they would, Yvonne was the woman at the front door. She would say you came and you brought a couple of guests. And she might have questioned, you know, if they were going to be comfortable in the surroundings. So she would kind of give you the 411. Look, this is a gay club, and you know there are gay people here, and are you going to be okay? Because we didn't want any kind of negative vibes. They didn't want anything negative happening up in the club, and so people would pay people to get them in because that's the only way you could get in was with the member. Um, and then the club, it it allowed us to be who we wanted to be for that night. We didn't have any worries about what people thought, you know, because you know if you're black and gay, that's number one, right? If you are, a lot of times you're scrutinized because of your sexual preference, not because you did anything to anybody, not because you're rude or anything like that, just because of who you are. So we would go up in there, and we wouldn't. Nobody cared what was going on with you. We were all there for one reason: to release some energy and to be around people who were just as comfortable as they, you know, themselves. And just everybody just be who you are and don't give a fuck about anything about life. And for those hours, we didn't connect with the outside world. We would just, it was like our home. It was like a home away from home.
And talk to us about Larry. How would you describe Larry as a DJ?
Um, Larry had a sound system that was made by Richard Long. And Richard Long was his good friend. Richard Long really loved Larry and loved, you know, how he played. So Larry had a sound system that was kind of built for him, and only him. Like there was no other sound system in New York City at the time when the garage was open. And Larry was to me, was a genius. He knew what to do and when to do it. He would create moments. I call them moments, or kind of like elevate the music and then send you into a frenzy and then bring you back down. You know, just through his playing, and then sound in the garage was next to nothing. There was a on the right side when you walked in, there was this big bass cabinet, and it was called the Larry Levan boombox. So you would actually walk by this boombox, it's huge, I mean huge, bass bottom speaker, and you would feel air. Like when he would hit it, you would feel the air coming out of the speaker with the sound. You could feel it vibrating. It was just, I mean, there was no other sound system ever like that in the club. And Larry knew how to create a mix. Like like he went and remixed Gwen Guthrie because he really liked her a lot. So he went and remixed a couple of her songs, Padlock, Peanut Butter. He made them sound, Should Have Been You, but he created a sound that would sound good in that room. I mean, it would sound okay somewhere else. I mean, you would never hear it sound like that in there. So he was able to remix and create sounds that were kind of like defined who he was and defined the club.
Talk to us about the ramp at the Paradise Garage.
Oh, when you walked in and you're walking up the ramp, and then the man with the muscle, the emblem, and then you would see the flashing lights going up the ramp, and you would hear the music echoing. It was more like an echo because you're not actually in the room yet, but you could tell, you could hear the people's response, and you could feel that you were getting ready to go into something that was way beyond what you've ever experienced before. You know, as long as you were open-minded and were willing to allow yourself to feel the experience of being in the club.
And were there any particular nights or performances that stand out for you at the Garage where it was like, oh, this was just magic?
Grace Jones was one of them. First Choice did a whole side of their album with Great Expectations, Double Cross, and I forgot what the third record is, but they did a production, just an amazing production on stage. And so I remember the First Choice show. I remember Grace Jones, Patti LaBelle, she had a live band. Karen Young did Hot Shot. And so Larry was playing it. He had been playing it for about a week or so. We couldn't find it in Vinyl Mania. We couldn't find out what it was. And so she came out while he played it, performed with no shoes on her feet, this heavy-set white woman, like, look at, she came from down south, you know, just throwing her head and singing and shouting. And she said, I know who you all are, but you all don't know who I am, and walks off the stage and never told us who she was. Yeah, so like he really fucked us up, you know? Yeah, so I was looking for a record called Hot Tub because I didn't know what she was saying, Hot Shot. I didn't know. So I would go to Manny and Vinyl Man said, Manny, what is this thing Larry's playing, Hot Tub? He said, this thing, it's not called Hot Tub, it's called Hot Shot. Yeah, so that's how I eventually got it. Yeah, but I thought you were saying Hot Tub. You know, you got to also remember, too, we were doing, well, not everybody was doing, but I was doing acid, and I was smoking weed, and I was sniffing coke. And so, like, the experience kind of it would distort sometimes the lyrics in a song, you know? So, so it was, those are some of the special moments.
Describe the Grace Jones performance and experience. What was that like? What happened that night?
She came out on stage, and you know she'll wear something. Well, she was there twice. When she was pregnant, and another time when she wasn't. So she came out this one night, and you know she had a whacked out outfit like she always does. Something very with a monocle, something by Gaultier, you know, head to toe. And she looks at everybody. She said nothing. She's saying nothing to anyone, and there's no music playing. And she's just looking at everybody. And then all of a sudden, she looked at everybody and she said, you fucking faggots. And the whole place went crazy. They went out of their minds. Because she wasn't at the mic, but if you were close to the stage, you could hear what she said. And they lost it. I mean, and like, she did nothing. She's still not doing anything. And then she performed. And so I remember that. I remember that so well. Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, because you know, there's some people who can actually stand on this. Like Michael Jackson could do it. We've seen him do it. We've seen Janet try to do it, but we've seen Ross who can do it. So they can just stand and demand attention, and you just appreciate that moment that they're sharing with you. Yeah.
Did Diana Ross perform at the garage too, or no?
Yeah. I didn't go that night though, but she did. Yeah. Yeah. When one of the bouncers tried to hint at me to come, because I would go on sometime I go Friday or sometime, but I was a regular Saturday member, right? And this particular Saturday came Friday, so I wasn't gonna come the next night. He said, "You really should come," and I was like, I'm taking a break, and that was the night that Ross was there. Yeah.
What was the difference between Friday night and Saturday night?
In the beginning, it wasn't. But Friday ended up being more straight than it was gay, and but gay people still went on Friday, but it seemed to cater more to a straight crowd.
And how much was it to get into the garage?
Let's see. For me, because I was a member, I think I paid $15, but it could be anyway. It could go anywhere from 15 to 25 and 35. It all depends who was going to be there. If they had a surprise guest or something, you might have to pay a little bit more. Gotcha. But people would pay the money for you to get them in. They would pay you that money. Then they pay the money to go into the club. Because as a guest, you paid more than a member. So no matter what it was, that's how hungry people were to get in that club, because they knew, they had heard, through other people. We didn't get any advertisement for the club until Frankie, what's his name? The DJ.
Knuckles?
No. On BLS.
Oh, Frankie Crocker.
Frankie Crocker, right. Until he started blabbing his mouth. And that's how he should not, to me, he just shouldn't even mentioned it on the radio. But once he did that, it kind of opened up eyes to other people to come down and experience.
How did Frankie Crocker attending and announcing the party change the party, if at all?
Well, I know for me, I wanted to go to the closing party, but because he had talked about it happening, so I didn't want to go, because I felt like it was sacred and it wasn't supposed to be commercially, but we were not geared to just everybody. Not just anybody should be able to come to that party. And I felt very offended that he went and did this open call to the whole New York City and anybody else listening to the radio that the garage was closing. And that wasn't the first time that he mentioned it, because he would come and he would hear what Larry, and he would play some of the stuff that he heard, because Larry would give him a copy, or he would get the record and then he play it on the radio. And so he was making it known that he went there. And for me, when you commercialize something that's sacred, then you're screwing up with the whole energy of the place. To me, I don't want to sound like I'm being to separate people, but if you had something that meant so much to you and it allowed you to be free, and now you have to question, is it okay for me to behave that way because there's these other people who are inquisitive, not because they're aware, they're inquisitive. So when you're inquisitive, that means that you don't have the awareness of what's going on around you. So you may be a little uncomfortable, but I didn't want that. I don't want that. I don't want a level of uncomfortability. I got to go through that enough in the real world. So this is my escape. And if now my escape is kind of diluted with inquisitive people who were questioning, it doesn't make for a good atmosphere for me, at least not to me.
And how important, describe what New York City was like for a gay Black man at that time, and how important the garage was as a safe haven.
Well, for me, I had a good day job. I was working at Better Days, and I had already did Nickel Bar and a few other places. So we had just came out of Stonewall, like, you know, somewhere in the early 70s, the 80s. And so like we're talking 80s, 90s. And so there was a ton of places to go. There were a whole bunch of different clubs to go to back then. And we were fighting for our rights. There was a lot of fight for, you know, gay rights, and there was you know, there was the gay march started, and you know, so there was a lot of people. Like David Mancuso, number one, opened up his apartment, his loft, to his friends. He had some gay friends who were Black of color, and they didn't have a place to go party. So he had opened up his house. He charged a cup $5.99 or something like that to come in, and you party from the morning. From the night all the way to the morning in his loft. And it was he was one of the. To me, he was like the foundation of what everything else came to be. The loft was like the real sacred ground, and then everything else came after the loft. So I'm trying to think, because then came along the AIDS crisis. So things started changing because then our friends were dying, and you didn't want to talk to you were afraid to sometimes have a conversation with an old friend you haven't seen because you were afraid they were going to tell you that, because almost every weekend we were going to the garage, they were telling us somebody had passed away. And but as far as our freedom, or as far as being comfortable, I think I was more comfortable then than I am now. You know.
Really?
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, because I was having so much fun. I'm not having a whole lot of fun right now. Like, things aren't fun to me anymore. I'm 62. I'm going through oral surgery that I don't have any teeth in my mouth. I've gotten older. I've been through cancer. I've been through the AIDS crisis. I've been through the crack crisis, and something about back then. You felt like the world was yours. Like, you had so many people in so many places that you could go hop around. You know, you weren't limited to your type of parties. I would go to a place called a boys bar, which was predominantly white gay guys, but the DJ in there was so good, and I forget who he was. I don't think it was Bruce Forrest, because I heard Bruce at another club down in on the Lower West Side, down near Chambers Street. But there was so much fun, and then the nightlife was much stronger, and it just seemed like you didn't have so much to worry about back then. Yeah, you had to still pay your bills, and you had to still, do what you have to do for yourself. But we're living in a whole different world now. What's going on now, and it's sort of chaotic, and so we don't have a place to escape to anymore. We don't have it.
What is the Loft, for those that don't know?
Oh, so the Loft was David Mancuso's. It was his apartment, and like I was saying, he had a couple of, David was a very universal person. Like, he got along with everybody. He had friends from all different backgrounds, and he was really, really into sound. I mean, really, really, he was more conscious about the sound of a record and a recording, and wanted to hear it on a system that would separate the highs from the lows and the mids, and balance everything out. He was like really big on that. And so he had the sound system. He was one of the first ones to take the tweeters out of a speaker and make a tweeter box and like separate sound, that way. And he had this loft that he had down on Houston and Mercer. I believe that's the 4th Street. Now it's down the block from the gallery. And he decided that he would give a party, charge a couple of dollars, and his friends could come. A lot of his black gay friends. There were a couple of white bars and stuff, but back then, yeah, racism was still going on, even in the gay community. It was still happening. And so you may go, but you may not be well accepted within the club, right? So he made it so that everybody, whether you were straight, whether you were gay, you're Asian, African, Hispanic, origin, Indian, he didn't care. You come, you pay, and you have a fabulous time. Like, I'm going to give you a great time. And you would stay there all night. And he didn't mix. David wasn't into the mixing. He would play one record, and then the next record would either enhance the record he just played or be even better. Like, so he told a story through just playing the song and then you listening to the sound of the song. And it was just like, it was magical. It was magical. So my mixing thing didn't come until Nikki. And when Nikki really kind of set the tone for the mixing. But as far as the quality of records and sound, like, I have a couple of songs that David had played in the Loft. And I may have played them on my sound system, but don't sound nothing like when you heard it at the Loft. Yeah, so Loft was really the forefather of the granddaddy of everything else in our scene.
And talk to us about the music. Were there particular songs that were Loft classics, or that were like, this is a Loft song? And were there particular nights where it was like, ooh, this night was just amazing at the Loft? Was it either a night or a performance or something?
Well, I didn't go to the Loft a lot, to be honest with you. I went a few times, and then I found the gallery down the block, and when the gallery moved. So I found myself spending more time in the gallery than I did at the Loft. But what I will say is that one of the songs that I know that I remember was The Chase by War. And that song played in that place was like amazing. Just the sound separation, because he had balloons there and the punch, and everything was just set up so like this was like, welcome, come in my home and experience, the music and be who you are. Pop your acid, do whatever drugs you wanted to do, and you're in a safe space.
What is Buttermilk Bottom?
Oh, Nikki did Buttermilk Bottom after the gallery had closed. And yeah, that was still in Manhattan, but kind of like closer to the Wall Street area, I think. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, the Buttermilk Bottom was the next place that Nikki started playing at after the gallery was closed. I used to go there too. Yeah.
What was the vibe there like, and how was that different from the gallery?
Okay, so back then, like, you can't recreate something that's like one of a kind. You can't recreate it. Like, you can you can bring the DJ, you could get the balloons, you can decorate all you want, but there was something special about that room. So not saying that the Bell and Bomb wasn't special, but it was special in its own way. It didn't, it wasn't like the gallery, but some of the people from the gallery were there and Nikki was there. And so the energy and the vibe was still strong, but it wasn't, for me, I always remember places that kind of marked who I became and who I was. Like I at this point now, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I think I was playing, around that time. So it was a little different, but it was a lot of fun. It also was a very good. It was a lot of fun going.
What is the chase?
Oh my God! Wow, nobody's asked me about the chase in the longest time. Oh wow! So that was on 30th Street, I think, between 5th and 6th. It was upstairs, and who played there? Was that Derek? Okay, I'm not sure, but I think that was Derek who played in the Chase. So Chase was also one of those other places. You walked up the steps. They treated you like family. The staff there treated the people as if each one of you was special, and it felt like once again another place that felt like our home, and wow. I remember some really crazy nights there because that was right down the street from Madison Square Garden, and we had a friend with us one night, and somebody slipped him some angel dust or something, and for some reason he thought that our friend was the devil and that Madison, the train station was hell, and that's where we were trying to take him. And it took us like an hour and a half to convince him that it was not real. You're just high. Shut up and get on this train because we gotta go home, But the club itself was like I said, like family, and we ate there. They would always have something to eat. So like we were always in the crock pot. He had a big crock pot that he would cook. A stew or chili or whatever it was. And then in the morning we'd have bagels and coffee and donuts and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun. A lot of fun.
What is the world?
Oh, the world was Frankie. That was Frankie Knuckles' home. Oh my God. So that was a rinkety dink staircase. You had to hold on to the rail because the steps are all fucked up. But once you got in that room, oh my God, that was Frankie in his heyday. It was an after-hour club as well, and it was I think it was on the Lower East Side. Yeah, it was on the East Side, the Lower East Side, and wow. And nobody's asked me about that either in such a long time. Wow. Yeah, that was Frankie's home. And that's where I used to go to hear him play and get to meet him and get to be a friend, Frankie was really, he was an amazing DJ, but he was a really great person as well. He was a real sweetheart. Yeah. But the world was another after-hour spot. And we would party there until the morning, and Frankie would wear us out. It was good. That was a good party.
And then you and Frankie had a residency at Soho Palace. Did you guys play together at Soho Palace or no?
No.
Oh, no.
Frankie played at the Sound Factory bar, and I did too.
Oh, okay.
But I worked for another promoter back then. Frankie played on Friday. And I think our party was on Saturday or Yeah, Saturday, and I worked for Charles Jackson
So
back then. Yeah.
perfect. Talk
Hmm.
to people. What is the Sound Factory bar?
All right, so the Sound Factory bar was over there in the 20s, and it was a two floors. It was main floor and then the basement. And Frankie would be playing upstairs, and sometimes Danny played down. No, did Danny play? No, Manny Lehman. I think it was Manny Lehman. Anyway, Manny would play downstairs, and it was not that. It wasn't real big, but it was real cozy, and it was real funky because the Underground Network started there with Louis and Barbara and Don, from that whole group, Underground Network. That was where they began their parties on a Wednesday. I believe they were there. And so a little bit of everybody gave events. And that's when promoters would, they would, one would start a party, and then if it was a good party and people seemed to like the place, then other promoters came along and would start, their own production on a different night. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Uh, what is Studio 54?
Oh, hmm. Well, um, studio catered more um, they were, it was a good party, but it was kind of exclusive. Like you'd have to either be on the line and know somebody, or be in a mad crazy outfit, or catch Steve Rubel's attention, and then you might be able to get in the club. Um, I didn't get in the club until Mike Stone, who was the only black gay promoter who ever worked in studio, started doing events there. And that's when I got up in there, because I worked for Mike. I DJ for him in a couple of clubs. And so, and Mike Stone was he was very well connected with the industry. He knew other promoters. He knew him and Richard Long were roommates. So they were best of friends. Yeah. So Mike's got the idea of doing parties through being around Richard. And he would see what was going on. And he started his parties, and Fantasia was one of them. And I think he did Club Tomorrow. Yeah, he had a legacy of parties that he did. And he was the one who got me into studio. The studio was fun, but it was a little snooty. Just a little, not all that, but yeah, because it was all like people get starstruck when they saw Ross on the floor. It's like, let her live. Like she wants to have, she wants to be just like you for a day. Let her live. And some people wouldn't, and some people be all fucked up and they wanna, And when you go there, you didn't want to feel like you were on stage. They want to just be who you be themselves.
What is Bonds International?
Bonds was Mike Stone and Kenny Carpenter. Bonds was this. It used to be a clothing store, and a huge clothing store, and it was converted into a huge club. And Mike Stone was the promoter for Bonds, and he put Bonds on the map. Him, Kenny Carpenter. I don't know who else was playing for Mike back then. I think Kenny was more of the resident DJ for him. Yeah. So that was in somewhere in Midtown, 40 something Street and Broadway. It was just really colossal. It was big. It was major. It was, yeah, that was fun.
And then you also played at Taino Towers.
Oh yeah, that was my first party with Charles Jackson.
So what is Taino Towers, and tell us about that?
Taino Towers was it was actually the name of the building that Charles lived. He had an apartment in, and those are when the building was created, it was created with ceiling to floor windows, and they really were trying to upgrade the area, and so they had made it they were hoping white people would come up in the area and move in, but they weren't coming, and so they started renting out the apartments to Blacks and Hispanics,
What
so we gave
what neighborhood was this?
the Third Avenue and 115. It's somewhere between like 113, 100 and
Oh, so like Spanish Harlem.
and yeah, Spanish Harlem, yeah, somewhere on Third Avenue, yeah.
Mm.
And that was his first house party. But that was the first party that we connected, and I started working for him for years. I mean, we built a relationship from that one first party. That was his first party, and that was one of the another one of the big things that I did, which opened up other doors for me, because he went along he followed Mike Stone, and Mike Stone kind of led him by the hand and showed him the ropes and how to do things. And so then Charles went and would go on and do his own events, like the Sound Factory Bar and Warehouse, and so on and so forth.
What is Better Days for those that don't know, and who was the resident DJ?
Okay, so the original, I might get in trouble, but the original for me, the original one was T. Scott, and he was a resident DJ, and I got to meet him, and I got to hang out with him. I got to play with him, and then at some point I ended up playing there as well. So Better Days was a gay bar with a dance floor, 2 dance floors, that catered more to Black and Hispanic gay men. They didn't discriminate like some of the white gay clubs did, but there were predominantly more of them than it was, going there. And so T. Scott is the one who put the club on the map, but he's not the only one who had a residency there. I ended up having one. Bruce Forrest had one. Dave Morales played there. Timmy played there. So we all were a part of it. But for some reason, somebody thinks that they put the club on the map, and it wasn't T. Scott. And I'm here to clear the air. And you can send that person to me, and because I've already told them to their face what I thought of that statement. And T. Scott is the one who put Better Days on the map, not anyone else.
Facts.
In that story. Yeah. But
Facts.
A great party, and I learned so much from T. T was so creative, and he was so nice. He was a really nice person, and I was terrified. How I don't want to say idolize, but I kind of put, when I would meet the DJs that I kind of admired, I would feel a little uneasy, because like, wow, like I'm really meeting this person, like I was meeting Michael Jackson or something. I mean, in my head, they were bigger than life. And then to get to know them and then realize, they're just like me, like we're just people. But to be around him and then to listen to him give me advice and experience was unbelievable. And me playing there I played there for 3.5 years. And I'm going to tell a story, if you don't mind.
Please. About
Better Days, right? So this was the first year that Martin Luther King was a holiday, his birthday. And so it was about 4 to 4, and it was really, really crowded that night. And the management told me to shut it down at 4. And I said, but I said, this is our first year of having Martin Luther King birthday, a holiday, you know, and it's all, and they're Italian. They're not black. You know, most of our clubs were not owned by black folks. It was mafia. All right. And not only were they Italian, they were mafia. So you all need to know that. And so I didn't like what they were doing, like, because they had made so much money and they were going to shut, you know, they had made their money. So, like, fuck you, black people, you know. So they told me this at 3:45, wind it down, and because we're going to shut it down at 4. So I was supposed to do that, but I decided at like 5 minutes to 4 to get on the mic, and I got on the mic and I said, look, you know, this is our first time celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday, and they want me to wind it down. I said, but I don't want to. I said, if I keep playing, will you all stay? And they went crazy. And so I played until 4:45, and they got me downstairs, and they wanted to kick my ass. And one of the security guards got me out of there and got me safe because they were so pissed off with me because I didn't do what they wanted me to do. And I don't think a lot of people know, like, you know, besides being the DJ, sometimes you gotta stand up for your rights. You know, you gotta let people know that, you know, you can't just use people like that. Like, it was almost as if they counted so much money. They were like, well, fuck it. We got all the money that we're gonna get from them tonight. Let's just shut it down. No, like, you know, make this something special. And sometimes, you know, behind the scenes, you may not see it, but somebody may be standing up just for, you know, for principle and just for what they feel within their heart it's right. Yeah.
More about Better Days, about you and T. Scott. One, what piece of advice did he give you that you still remember? And then two, are there any particular songs that he played that really like were considered Better Days anthems?
Somebody's Gotta Go by Mel and Tim. That's one of them. And he loved Eddie Kendrick, Going Up in Smoke. He told me, he said, just be yourself. You know, be true to yourself and be aware of the floor. Like, always be conscious of what's happening on the floor. Like, it's okay for you to play a couple of songs for you, but your entertainment, you are the entertainment for these people that you don't know. Maybe you know a few of them, but still, like, overall, you don't know all 300-400 of those people on the dance floor. So you have to be creative, and then you have to entertain them. Your music is what's going to entertain them. You're not going to be singing a song. You know, there's nobody performing live. So you have to perform with your music. You have to enhance. You got to make them feel like they're special. Like they came here to get an experience. You got to give it to them, you know? And that means that you give up yourself, you know? To me, it all comes from within. You know, when you live something, you know, I think a lot of people, no. I think that when you play from your heart and from your spirit, then you're not always conscious of, you know, what's right for you and what's right for them. You're playing from what you feel. And, you know, and that's all that people want. They just want to feel, enjoy and experience something that night that they weren't going to get sitting at home.
That's great. What is Elks Lodge?
Oh my God. Oh boy. Oh. Oh my God. So that was in Brooklyn. And no, wait a minute, Elks Lodge. No, that's the ball. Okay. So that's in Harlem. So Elk Lodge was the first ball that I ever played for. Pepper LaBeija was the mother of the House of LaBeija. I'm sure people are familiar with poles by now, so they know houses. And so she was a mother, and Pepper was a man, and she had 5 kids, and would go and drag, and she was the mother of the house. And I remember she said to me at Midtown 43 that we were sniffing coke in the back, and she said, you know, you're going to play at my ball dog. And I said, well, okay, if you say so, because you don't tell no to Pepper. So anyway, so yeah, so that was my first, you don't say no. You don't even think about it. So that was my first ball that I ever played for. And it was some on 120 something street in Harlem. And that opened up the door for me playing for the ballroom scene as well. That was, you know, I played for several different balls, for extravaganzas at the Latin Quarters. We did a major ball there when Angie was alive. David was the father, and it was just, they came from the staircase. They lit them up on the top of the stair. Then they came down the staircase. It was a really great production, yeah. But that was my onset of learning about the ballroom scene.
How is it different playing for a ball versus a regular party?
Well, balls have categories, and for the categories, you have certain songs. So you don't play, like, you know, this is not about your feelings. This is not about an emotion. This is about, the category is, bitch, and you better play Love Break. And the category is, and you better play Love is the Message. Or the category is, and you better play the hot dance. So you had to play the songs that were going to excite the people who were walking in the categories. Say like Femme Queen walking for face category. Is it all over my face? Like, you're not gonna play another song because the girls are gonna go, sing, what's wrong with you? You know, you stick to an agenda. You follow the category, and then when there's a break in the ball, then you could play a little something from your spirit if you want to. But don't even try it too long, because they're going to be going back to the routine. So that was the difference. You had a certain song for each category, and sometimes, say it was grand prize. Like grand prize is the big production finale category with the $5,000 or 10 grand. It could be you winning a lot of money. They may have programmed their music, so you'd have to make sure you get the tape and you time the tape properly for when they're getting ready to come and do their magic on the runway. Yeah.
What is the House of Omni?
Oh, so I'm supposed, I don't know if I'm still an ordinary member. I don't know if I still am, because I haven't talked to Kevin in a long time. But he made me and T. Scott members of his house without us walking or doing anything, you know. Yeah, so Kevin Omni is the mother of the house of Ultra Omni. And he adopted me as one of his kids back in Midtown 43. Yeah. And so that was my introduction to being a member of the house. I never walked in any of the categories, though.
Which brings me to my next question. What is Midtown 43?
So Midtown 43 was an extension of another club before we got in there. So we were across the street in the Hotel Diplomat, and we did a party called Sweat, and it was started at 3 and it went till 12 in the afternoon. And I played with Donald, is it Donald Young? Donald somebody. He was from Philly. And me and him played there. And then the guy from the management there went and got Midtown 42, which was across the street and down the block. And so that was, I ended up having a residency there because Charles, who was the original DJ, had passed away in like the first 6 months, a year that the club was open. and I was the DJ right behind him. And so they made me the resident DJ there. And that's where I got to do bookings. So I would book acts, and I would be part of the production of Marinee had a show. Miss Grace had a drag show. And then I booked Lolita Holloway. I booked a few acts at Midtown 43. And that was real important because that was open the same time as the garage was open. And we still, I mean, we had, you know, garage didn't have any liquor or anything, so we were a bar, and people would come there. They would go to the garage after, but we still had people who would come regularly on a Saturday night because we were open on weekdays and in the weekends. And people would come there first and then go to the garage because, you know, you could walk in the garage at 5 in the morning and you still are going to party until like 11, 12 o'clock the next day.
All right. This is the question I've been waiting to ask you. What is the warehouse?
Oh, okay. So the warehouse was up in the Bronx. It was this big old warehouse, literally. And Mike Stone had a friend who wanted him to come up and do something at the space, right? So he brought me with him, and we looked at it, and we both kind of was like, "Oh shit! Like, we got to do this!" Like, because at the high ceiling, had you got to walk up the staircase. When you walked in, there was another room. You know, so that room became the hip hop room, and then you walk up another staircase, and then you come to the main room, and it had these huge high ceilings, wooden floor. We had an outdoor patio. We had this huge bar. It was perfect. The place was perfect because it looked like something from the old days. It looked like something from when we would do stuff downtown. But this was uptown in the Bronx. And that's when Mike asked me to get in contact with Charles Jackson. And I got the two of them together, and they ended up working together. And then the warehouse became way much more than we ever even thought that it would become. We were the biggest gay club in the Bronx ever. There still has not been a club that big and draw that many people into it in the Bronx. Ever. It was like amazing. It was, that was a place where I got to have the opportunity to travel literally to Germany, Paris, Japan. That opened up a lot of doors for me. And it was historic, you know. I don't think it'll ever happen again. But I'm so happy that I was a part of it. That was my second home. You know, once I got there, I was there every weekend, and it was magical for me. I come in and burn my sage, get the room all set, ready, you know, for the energy to be good. And each night for me was another experience. Each night was a challenge. Like there was some of the songs, I had a couple of songs that were, I guess you call them standards, or people would expect me to play it, but I would play it, but I never played it the same way. I would always challenge myself to play it differently. And so that was something that I didn't know it was going to happen, and I didn't know we were going to get so big. I mean, we opened at 11, and we would stay open. Sometimes we stayed open till 11 o'clock the next day. You know,
Wow.
It all depends. Yeah. Some gay pride weekend or some Martin Luther King, any kind of special holiday, we may have over 2,000 people running in and out that club. And yeah, because we could hold in capacity, I think our capacity was like 1,300, but we would sometimes have a full house and have a line going down the block and around the corner. So as people were leaving, we would let them in, you know. So we have gained worldwide recognition for the warehouse. People would come literally from the airport. They would come straight from the airport and come to the club because that's how much of a noise we were making there. Yeah.
And that was your residency. What years did that club operate?
That's a good question. That's why I kept my bio. I said my bio. I said, he might ask me something about years. Yeah, I don't even know if that's in my bio. But yeah, I'm sure it is. Let me, so I think it went from 2000 to maybe 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, I think somewhere around it. Charles would be able to tell you better than me. I'm not good with years.
That's
I remember the places and people, but the years I'm not good with.
Talk to us about, at first you didn't have a hip hop room downstairs, but then you added it later on, right?
In the first couple of parties, I don't think we had it, but that was always an idea of Charles, because around that time, a new generation was coming up, and they gravitated toward hip hop and R&B. And Charles always, don't actually know. Like, we might not have had it the first night, because I think the first night was in honor of Better Days. I think we did a Better Days reunion for the first night. So we didn't have the bottom floor open. But then when we opened up for regular business, it was a hip hop room. And we had either Missy B or MK or DJ Unknown playing downstairs. Yeah, but that was the onset of what they call Michael Musso did an article on our club, and he called they had a name for the guys who were gay, but not really gay, like who didn't identify with being gay, but they messed around with guys occasionally, or maybe even had a boyfriend, but they did not define themselves as gay. So Michael Musto created this, came up with this homo thug. Oh. So yeah, so that was and he did an article on homo thugs, and he came to the warehouse and he took pictures of some of the guys, and without their permission. And some of the girlfriends got wind that the guys were in the picture, and it got ugly for some of them. Yeah, it did not end in a very nice way. And we didn't give him permission to take just pictures randomly of people, but he did. Yeah, so that was when the homo thug thing kind of, and then sometimes the women would wait outside to see if their man come out the door. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. Yeah.
So in a sense, the warehouse was a safe space for gay Black men in the Bronx, because the Bronx back then was still thugged out.
Yeah.
And then also, talk to us about the warehouse being a bridge between the old and young Black gay generations.
Well, my generation did not gravitate so well to that hip hop and R&B thing. Some of them do, I like some of the songs too, but I don't want to hear that all night. Mm-hmm. So that way, the ones who were younger would go in the club and hang out in that room. And sometimes out of curiosity, I think, they would just go upstairs just to see. And for some people, they actually like what they heard, and some of them would gravitate upstairs, and after a little bit of time, they go right back downstairs, you know. But the older crowd always wants their classics. They want the new stuff. They want some African beats. They want some tribal stuff. You know, they want the mixture. They want the energy. And so that room would be more dominantly from my generation. Yeah. But every now and then, you know, there's some of the young kids, especially the ballroom kids back then. The ballroom kids, they want to hear that kind of up energy music as well. Yeah.
Were there any particular anthems at the warehouse where like you knew this would turn it?
Yeah. The themes, I call it the theme song of the warehouse, was called The Chant of Voodoo by the Noise Boys. And it was this 4-minute long or 5-minute long song. And I would stretch it out every time to either 10, 15, 20. Sometimes I play for almost a half an hour. It all depends on the energy in the room, you know. But that one song really defines the sound that of course I play a little bit of everything, but that song I had to play it even if I waited till 6 o'clock in the morning. I better play it. It was like, you better not go without playing that song throughout the night. So that was one of them. And I think that was the main one. Like of course I love things like Flying Saucer, and I loved Don't You Want Some More, Fast Eddie, and the Flying Saucer by Dee Dee Bridgewater, and I would like the early part of the night. I would play like John Lucien, Listen Love. So I would try to cover a whole broad spectrum of music, and so it all depends when you got there what you were going to get.
And that brings me to my next question about DJing. How did you set up your nights, or how does your DJing change depending on the time of the night? So for example, when you're opening, what kind of music are you playing versus peak hours versus if you were going until 11 a.m.? How would your style or sound change at all?
Oh yeah, so in the early part of the evening, I'm burning my sage, and I'm playing kind of down tempo or even some jazz. I love Pat Metheny, and so I love his compositions and his arrangements. And so I would play things like that, or some George Benson, or Gene Khan, or you know something very minimal, you know, in the early part of the evening. Now, as people are coming in, then I'm gonna start bringing in some vocals, mid-tempo, down-tempo vocals, and then when it's time to rise to the occasion, I'll call it, you know, then you start bringing in something to maybe some Afro beats, maybe some stronger vocals, Barbara Tucker, Beautiful People, you know, Flying Saucer, like I said, you know, things like that. And then when that peak thing, when that thing that happens, I call it, when it happens in the room, when you locked in with the people and the people are locked in with you, and it's almost as if like in African history, they call it call and response, like they do in the church, you know? You know, you say one thing and then automatically the crowd saying something back. So like we're kind of like that. We're in the call and response mode. Then it all depends on what hits me. You know, I'm not set in, there's no standard, but I might go into something like Tribute by Soul Ascendants, or Sigme Sume by the House of Gypsies. You know, it all depends on what hits me. Like I always looked at every night as an experience. This is not the same as last week, so you don't approach it the same way. You may have I may have little tricks I may have under my sleeve, like an acapella or something new. So it may be something new that really drives people crazy. I might have played it earlier in the night, but you didn't pay no attention. And I learned that from Larry. You know, he would play things sometimes in the early part, you know, an early part of his playing, and then you really didn't pay too much attention, and then he would play it again, and then you still was like, I heard this already. But then by the third time you heard it, you were living, like you got it, you know. It's like, so some of those, you know, things like that, I also learned how to incorporate into my playing, you know, like you introduce something, you may, because if you feel something within you, then more than likely the people out, you know, are going to feel it too. And so you experiment, then you go for it, and then they get it. Yeah.
Is there a difference playing for a white gay party versus a black gay party?
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely.
What's the difference?
Okay, so it all depends on which white gays you're playing for, and I hate to say it like that, but you have the circuit boys. Now the circuit boys don't want to really hear anything that we got to play, because everything is done, and we don't do that. Like we don't do that. I mean, I might have played back then "Nobody Wants to Be Here" by Deborah Cox, which I hated, but it was a big song back then. It was commercially played, so I played it at the warehouse. But for me, I would have never even played it but the crowd responded to it so well. But if you're talking about that white gay crowd, there's nothing I could do for them. Now, there are the white gays who follow Body and Soul. They're the white gays who come to soulful house parties. So for them, it's pretty much the same thing across the board. So the circuit girls, I don't have nothing for them. So I couldn't play for them. They don't see me, I don't see them. Yeah, their sound is their sound, and I'm happy that you girls are happy, but I don't want to have no parts of that. None whatsoever. I don't feel it. I don't like it. It don't make no sense to me. It makes me upset. It really upsets me. My spirit goes, oh no, not that again. Yeah. So I couldn't do nothing for that. I can't.
What's the difference in playing for a straight party versus a gay party, if at all?
Okay, well, thank God there are more straight people who are actually embracing house music. And I don't know how much it has to do with outdoor events. I think it has something to do with that. I think it has something to do with more straight DJs are converting from hip hop and R&B to house music. So then they're adjusting their sound. But on the pretty much on a regular, you have to be a little more, you have to hold some restraint. You have to hold back to some extent. With a straight crowd that's not open to challenge themselves with a different song. Like there could be the straight people who you'd have to play standard house, which will kind of limit you because you only have this little group of songs that you can play. Because if there's something they really don't know, they're really not going to get. But if you have a crowd that's hungry and is open, because you gotta have an open mind. You can't be locked in to, before I let go, and everything has to be before I let go. That sound, it has to stay like that. Like there's some people who are like that. And, but if you have a crowd that is somewhat, maybe out of the group, maybe there's 10 people out of 50 that you see get it, you go for it. Because maybe then after the 10 people who get it, maybe the 40 people will come along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, just maybe. But you gotta have somebody. You don't want to place them and clear the whole floor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pretty. That's not a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talk to us about house music. What is house music for those that don't know?
I don't know what this man said. House is a feeling. To me, to be honest with you, house was to me it's a category that was created to define a sound, right? But all house music derives from dance music, plain and simple. There was a time many, many years ago when we had the Tramps, when we were listening to Spinners, we were listening to Donna Summers, we were listening to the Temptations. All of that is dance music. If that hadn't happened, if Masterpiece by the Temptations, if Going Up in Smoke by Eddie Kendrick, Keep on Trucking by Eddie Kendrick, Love Hangover by Diane Ross, if none of that ever happened, which are the foundation of everything, all this other genres of all these names, tech house, blah, blah, this and that, fuck you. Like, at the end of the day, it's dance music. And that, to me, that's what house music really is. It's just a good fucking dance song. The Tramps made dance song. They weren't, nobody called it house, but you better believe that you put on Disco Party now, you're going to see people dancing. You know, those are that's where the foundation of all these other genres and yabba dabba do and deep this and that. That's where it all came from back then. Grover Washington, Mr. Magic. You can't fuck with that. Los Conquistadores Chocolates, Johnny Hammond. You can't fuck with that. You can't. War, City Country City. What? What can you say? Like, that's the foundation of our soul scene, is that music that came out from the 70s.
Mm. So the next question is, what is soulful house, and is that prefix useful or not?
Well, I guess it separates it from tech house, or it separates it from deep house. And then at the end of the day, is it good? Is it good music? Is it people dancing? Soulful house, they say, okay, so Kenny Bobian, Susu Bobian, Barbara Tucker, Vic Lavender, DJ Spinner, Sean Escovay, I guess that's soulful house, because it's a vocal. Soulful house doesn't always have to have vocals, but it's usually more of a rhythm of anywhere between 124 and 127, so on and so forth, or even 123, and it all depends. I just don't like all that separation stuff. I don't particularly care for it, Yeah.
In a world struggling with COVID-19, how important is social dancing? And is dance music like a dinosaur facing extinction?
I don't think dance music is like a dinosaur, facing extinction. I think due to the environment that we're now living in, we have to think twice about, do we want to be in a crowded room with total strangers sweating and dancing on top of each other? Think about it. I know for me, I'm 62 years old now. I just had a birthday last week. So I just turned 62. I have some compromising health issues that I'm dealing with. I don't want to be in a crowded room with a bunch of people that I don't know, with the mask or not. I don't want to be in that environment, I'd rather go sit down and watch a show. I'd rather see a live performance. If I had to be in a room with a lot of people I don't know, I want to be in my own seat, you know, and watch a performance. But I don't want to be sweating and rubbing up against folks that I don't know, because it just doesn't seem like that's a healthy environment for us to be in at this time. Maybe I hope at some point it'll get back to us being able to go indoors. Right now, like today, Frankie Paradise is going to be playing on 131st Street here in Harlem. I'm going to go. It's from 2 to 7, something like that, or 12 to 7. Anyway, but I'm going to go to that. And then next week, I have my friend Bashir is going to be playing at Riverbank Park from 2 to 7. And so I'll go to those outdoor events. I think it's good for the spirit. I think people need to have an opportunity to let go of some of this stress and tension that they're going through on a daily basis, because I know for me, it hasn't been easy dealing with wearing a mask and, you know, coordinating your mask with your outfit and all that kind of stuff. Like, I never thought I had to be concerned about a mask. You're going with my outfit, you know, but now here we are, you know, we got socially acceptable masks to go along with what you wear. But at the end of the day, the music it's never gonna stop being made. People aren't gonna stop listening to it, but we may have to adjust the way that we socialize. We have to make an adjustment to how we party, right? But I myself have been, and I've been part of some of the biggest events that I could ever imagine. And so if this is the end of my indoor partying, I'm really okay. I got some great memories, you know. I've been fortunate to been a participant of some great events. I remember I used to celebrate my birthday for a whole week, and without the week, I would have 3 and 4 different birthday parties. So like I've had for myself, and I've been to the garage, and I've been around the world, and I've seen a lot of stuff. Like, I'm okay if this is the end, but I think that these outdoor things are a good thing. I think that's a good thing. And so I wouldn't say that the door is closing. I think everything has it changes. Everything changes, and everything, you know, like, you know, sometimes things repeat themselves. You know, history repeats itself. And so I don't think the music is going anywhere, but I think that there has to be some major adjustments to the whole partying scene, because there's a lot of clubs that are not going to open back up. They're just not.
Outside of COVID, excluding the whole COVID situation, what the hell happened to New York nightlife? Back in the day, New York was mecca for nightlife, and then it wasn't. What happened?
Giuliani happened.
Explain that for people.
Giuliani was out to get the clubs. Like,
who is Giuliani for those that don't know?
He was our mayor at one point. Now he's Trump's henchman. He's his sidekick, and he does dirty, sneaky, insidious things behind the government's back in order to help his friend. And but Giuliani was the mayor of New York City, and he came after the club scene. He didn't want it. He started making it harassing clubs, and things started shutting down. We haven't had it like the way it was back in the 80s and 90s. Like, there hasn't been anything like that time period anymore. Like, it's just it's boring. To be honest with you, that's the word that I got. It's boring. Nobody, even when they've given, you know, there's a lot of parties that goes on in Brooklyn. There's a few parties that go on in Harlem. But nothing is exceptional. Like nothing, it's either in a cafe, it's either in a where they may even do a warehouse, but they don't do it right. Like nobody seems to kind of grasp back into the past, and you know, if you knew like how important it was for your staff and the door person and everybody that worked for you, and even out the ones who promoted, it's important for them to keep in mind that the most important thing is the party and the people that come. Nobody has seemed to do that in a way that there's a level of consistency. Nobody seems to have a spot prior to this happening that, unless it was 718. The only one that I think comes close to what I'm talking about is 718. Yeah, that's the closest one.
Tell people what 718 is.
718 Sessions is Danny Krivitz and oh God, what's
Benny.
the promoter? Benny, yeah, Benny Soto. Oh my God, yeah. So Benny Soto was a promoter, and Danny Krivitz is the DJ, and it's a monthly party given at different venues, sometimes the same venue, depending on the availability of the venue. Here in New York, and it's on a Sunday, and it's from 12 until 12 it's from 6 till 12, sometimes a little later. And Danny plays really good, and he plays a couple hours of classics in the early evening, and then he plays some new stuff, and then he mix in classics. So and the vibe is good because it's a little bit of everybody. It's some people my age, some people who are younger, but everybody's there to experience the music, and their focus. That's their focus. It's not on what you got or who you're with or any of that kind of. We're all there to have a funky good time, and so that's the only, for me, it was prior to this, it was the only party that came close to recreating that type of a vibe that I grew up on.
How important is a DJ residency these days in building a DJ's career?
I don't know if it's as important as it was when I was coming up, to be honest with you, because I see some of these DJs becoming really big names through the internet. Through, like, I'm not going to name them. I'm really not. But there are a few who I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they're doing that, or they're playing with this one, and like, really? Like, because they're not saying nothing, you know? It's like James Brown said, you're talking loud and saying nothing. It's like the music is saying nothing. Like, they have nothing. There's nothing. It's songs put together, sometimes good and sometimes not so good. It's the mixing technique, there's no, what you got to say? Tell me something. Make me feel happy, but don't make me feel confused. You know, I don't want to feel confused because you're going from this to that, and you're saying nothing. To me, it's like talking loud, saying nothing. And when I say that, I'm not saying that this technique is not good, but sometimes it's not. I think more importantly is that your presentation should catch my attention. You should, you know, and I'm not saying that every DJ has to be like that, but if you want to stand out of a crowd, because any motherfucker at this point can push the match beat button and you can match up a whole bunch of songs and you ain't saying nothing. You're talking loud and you're saying nothing. You need to say something with your music. You need to make it work for not only for you, but for other people, and it should inspire people to lift them up to another place. And I said it.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Talk to us about the relationship between a DJ and a dancer. Is there a relationship? You know,
Oh
what
yeah,
describe
yeah,
it, please.
yeah.
Describe it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna first talk about one of my friends who just recently passed away. His name was Tyrone Proctor. Tyrone used to dance on Soul Train, and he taught this style of dancing called whacking. And he was 60. No, we don't need his age. He danced for a very long time. I recently lost him, and I remember him saying to his he took me to one of his dance classes that he was teaching, and he said the DJ was so important to the dancers because that's how the dancers got inspired to do new moves or how to be more creative through the music that was being played. So when you see a real dancer, you know, like somebody who's flipping and doing a whole bunch of stunts and stuff, or, you know, just really feeling the music, you want to keep that person on the floor, you know? So you may start gearing your music to create a sound for them to keep that vibe going. And anybody who dances maybe for a living, they may then hear something that they will want to incorporate in maybe their a dance piece that they're creating, you know, or they may come up with some move that they never thought of due to what it is that you're playing for them. So there's kind of like the call and response thing that I talked about earlier. That happens with a dancer and the music and the DJ.
No, that's great. Now, you've also had the opportunity to play around the world in Germany, France, and Japan. Compare and contrast DJing in the USA versus Europe. How is it, you know, describe it for somebody that doesn't know.
Okay.
Playing international, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for me, when I went to Germany, they didn't gravitate to me very well because they were more into Junior's sound that was just kind of coming up. It was up and coming, which actually he supposedly snatched from someone else. But anyway, yeah. And so they were not too receptive. But the guy who booked me was happy with my work, and so I was happy I got an opportunity to go there and be there. But now in Japan is more like New York when it comes to knowing about the house music. They know the history. They know how to sing some of our classics, but they don't know how to speak our language. You know, so that's when I realized that music really is universal. Like if you could sing Hit and Run, but you can't say good morning, how you doing in English, you know, but you know what I mean? Then there's something that's very universal about your music, you know, that it translates to everybody, you know. And my best DJing traveling experience was in Japan. I went there for like 9 years, and I built my own following. I loved the challenge of playing there. Yeah, because they're no joke. Like they may not understand some of what they're saying in some of the songs, but they can feel. So you gotta play with your feeling. Like you gotta really show them, because they don't dance with themselves. They dance with you. So when I say that, they're looking at you. So they're watching me, even though they're dancing on the floor, they're not dancing looking like we look at each other, you know, when we dance. We don't stare at they literally look at you. And you better bring it. Like that means that, okay, you can't just do a mix and just stand there. and bob your head. Like, that's not gonna work. Like, so then you really gotta play what you really feel. Because if it looks phony, they're gonna know it's phony, you know? So you gotta really inspire them, because you are their entertainment. I mean, when I was saying that before, you know, the DJ is entertainment, there's no show or anything, but it's really made very clear to you there that, yeah, you are the one, and you better do it. Like, you better make us flip over. You make us, like, yeah, you got to do everything, because we're watching you. And if you're not feeling what you're doing, then why would you think that we would?
Mm.
Yeah, because you're playing yourself.
Do you remember some of the clubs you played at in Japan?
Good question. I got a clubography. So let's see. The one that okay. The one I remember really well, but they closed, is Yellow, Club Yellow. And there was another one in Sapporo that I liked a lot. Like, the sound system in there was really, really good. And I played there until like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I forgot what the name. I like that club in Sapporo. I don't have that, for whatever reason. I don't have.
It's okay. It's not that important.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, but I remember those two clubs a lot.
What advice would you give your younger self if you were to start all over again today, knowing what you know now? How would you approach your DJ career differently, if at all?
Well, I wouldn't. I kind of adapted this thing when I started playing early, because I used to watch Nikki play, and they would. I mean, not that he does it anymore, but it seemed like the music got enhanced by the more drugs you did. So I had got into the drug scene at a very early age, and I don't think that what I know now, I wouldn't do. I wouldn't have started getting high. And I think I would have more clarity at a younger age, and I would have been more focused, because I didn't know that I was becoming a drug addict. So I did drugs, and then I entertained drugs, and then drugs did me, and I had to get help for that. So that I don't think I would do, and I think that would have allowed me to be more focused and get my career, which I didn't even know. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. Like, some people now, when they become a DJ, well, I want to be as famous as Louis, or I want to be as well known as Spinner, or I want to be this one or that one, you know. When I started playing, all I wanted to do, I thought what they were doing was to me, was an art form. Like, they were creating a picture through music, you know. They were musically painting, you know, this picture. And I wanted to do that. Like, I didn't have in my head, oh, one day you're going to go to Japan, or one day you're going to be, you know, well known, or you're going to be like they did a documentary on the warehouse. So we're now recorded in history. Like, so that I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't even. Yeah. There's an article that was written by I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's online. If you look up the warehouse, it'll pop up. If you look it up under Google, it'll pop up, and then so we're documented now. So those were not things that I thought about. Those were things that happened. So I believe that, you know, as long as you approach this art form without any expectation Don't be thinking you're gonna blow up and be all this and all that, and you're gonna, be this producer. And you just be yourself. Like, don't conform to what other people do. Find your own niche. Create your own sound. Do you. And if you do you and stay true to yourself, somebody's gonna like you. You may not be liked by everybody, but if you try to follow a leader, or if you just like and then not adapt yourself, then you're gonna be a copycat. And to me, that sucks. Like, why bother? Why bother to do it? So stay true to yourself. Don't go into anything, I don't think, with these expectations of grandeur, or like, you want to have an empire like Louis. That didn't happen overnight. It did not happen overnight. Those years and years and years. And he was born into a family of music. So, you need to know the history. Sometimes you may need to know the history of somebody before you start, so admire them for who they are and find your own, like, stay in your own lane, get in your own, find it, and then work on it. And if you need to improve, you ask for help, or you even, go listen to other people. Like, never just consume yourself with you. Go out and venture out, outside of your comfort zone.
What would you say is the future of house music?
The what?
What is the future of house music?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I haven't made a CD or listened to any music in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I've been dealing with, my health situation. And so, like, this whole downloading and listening to track stores and in order for you to find your record, to me, it takes away from the whole experience of going to a record store. Like, there's no more record stores. So, like, my attention span has not been very much on keeping up with what's new. So I believe, it'll still go on, but I don't think if we're not allowed to have function and promote the music and get out there for people to listen to, I don't know if it has. It's not gonna die out. People are still gonna make good songs. I would hope so. Even if they remix an old song, But I think that it'll be challenging if we don't find places that we can go and gather with each other. I think it'd be somewhat challenging. Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, you asked me about stuff that I had no idea you were going to even ask me about. But no, I think you did a really good job. You covered a lot of area. So, well, I do want to say one thing. Okay, so but some people don't know, and so I think that they should know. So, like, I myself, I've been diagnosed with the virus for it's been now almost 30 something years, well, close to 40 years, right? And in the midst of that, when I got booked to go to Japan, because this is something I want people to know. Like, this is how determined I was. I got sick twice, well, 3 times. So when I got sick the first time, I canceled. When I got sick the second time, I canceled. Now, I didn't know at that time how much promotional work that they were doing for me in order to have people come to the event. But they were doing huge posters and flyers, and he was sending out messages. and this new New York DJ's coming to Japan, blah blah blah. And then I got sick a third time, right? But something told me that I better not cancel this third time, because if I canceled the third time, they weren't going to call me back. And so even though I was sick, I had to cover it up, and I was sick when I went because I just did chemotherapy and radiation. I was pretty sick, and I needed to know where the bathrooms were because I had a tendency to throw up it at random, and I needed to know. So I would scout out the restaurants when I got there, and maybe a couple of months after I did that tour, which opened up the door for me to keep coming back, I asked the guy, if I canceled that third time, were you gonna ever call me back? And he said no. And he said the reason why is because we as Japanese believe in your word. So we, even if something happened to you and it was detrimental, like maybe you lost a relative or stuff, like we believe in what you tell us. And if you tell us you're going to do something, no matter what, we're expecting you to do it. And I'm glad that I listened to that inner voice that told me, no matter what, you got to go. Like you got to deal with this, whether you like it or not. And like, I'm so glad that I listened. So sometimes the inner voice will tell you what you need to do. So instinctively, just listen to that voice. So, sometimes I don't listen to it and get me in trouble, but, listen to it, and just maybe it'll give you the answer that you need in order to get you through whatever it is you're going through.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Give me a couple of weeks to get this up online, and when I do, I'll send you links and promote it. I do have one final question. Which 5 people would you nominate that you think I should interview after you?
5 people. Danny Krivitz.
Uh-huh.
Quentin Harris.
Mm-hmm.
My friend who seems that he feels that he is not, he wants notoriety more than anything else, and he's a really good DJ, but he used to substitute for me at the warehouse. His name is Vince Kerpen.
Vince Kerpen?
Vince Kerpen, Kerpens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure you're going to interview Louis at some point, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, of course, Louis, and Charles Jackson for the promotional side. Because it's good to hear the DJs, but also the promoters have a story too, because they're the ones who pick us to do the events, and so I think Charles Jackson would be a good person to.
That sounds great. If you could do an intro for me, that'll be fantastic. I don't know Charles.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't know Charles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So would you like me to send you his number?
Yeah, send me his number.
Talk to him first?
Yeah. Just talk to him first and let him know that I'm legit. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when people get a cold call, they're like, I'm not doing it. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. All right.
Just talk to him and let him know I'm real. And then after that, then let me know, and then I'll give him a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but the other thing too, like take Louis' name off, because you were going to do him anyway. Okay. I would like for you to contact Fred Pierce.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because me and Fred have a history, and I introduced him to James Saunders, and that's how he started doing working with him as his resident DJ. Yeah, so Fred, I believe, needs to be acknowledged.
If you can introduce me both to Charles and to Fred, that'd be perfect.
Okay, I'll contact the both of them today.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I took up 2 hours of your Saturday, but this was a great interview. It was fantastic. It was great to catch up. This should be live in a couple of weeks. I will email you and let you know when I do. I'm going to do a lot of promotion, so everyone will know about it.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I never forget going to the warehouse because I'm not really in the gay scene, but I went to the warehouse and I was just like, the energy in there was crazy. Like, you know, when you walk into a room, you could just feel it. You just feel it from the moment you walk into the room. Like everybody was feeling it, and everybody was losing their mind, and everybody was living their life. And you could tell a good party from the energy for the people on the line. Like they're hyped to get in. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They
So
can't wait to get through the door.
That. Yeah, I never forgot that.
Thank you.
The line was crazy. People online were like chomping at the bit to come in. Thankfully, I think I don't remember, but I think was St. Lawrence doing the door security? Something like that? Yeah. So
St. Lawrence was the doorman. Yeah.
So I remember
that's another one you might want to talk to too.
Oh yeah, St. Lawrence. Okay, perfect.
St. Lawrence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to him. So
yeah, because he has his own label and everything too.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I definitely, I think the next 3 people are Charles, Fred, and St. Lawrence. I'll be perfect.
Okay, good.
But I remember the energy was just like, you could feel it. And then you go upstairs, like first you go in and it's packed. The hip hop room is packed. And I'm like, I'm not about this hip hop life. So I go upstairs and then like everyone was losing their mind. Like the energy was just like, and sometimes you go to parties where it's like, it takes a while to get to that point. But when you go in, it's already like live.
Already there,
the whole time that you're there, I was like, wow. I never went to the garage. I was too young to go to the garage. But for me, it felt like, you know, what everyone had described, it felt like it was that kind of energy.
Yeah. To me, it was the closest thing to the shelter, and because the shelter also has that same kind of feeling. But yeah, it was the closest thing to the garage. I believe so.
Well, if you have a couple seconds, 2 more questions, and for those, what is the shelter for those that don't know?
Oh wow! So the shelter was started by Timmy Regisford and oh God.
Freddie Shannon?
No. Well, Freddie Shannon, and one other guy from Blade.
Kevin Hedge.
Kevin Hedge, yeah. They would kill me. So the shelter party was at a club called Area. And then the shelter started from there, and it was like a little family based. It was like a community. And it was predominantly gay, straight, but there were gay people who would come to the party. And then I would, every now and then, do a guest spot for Timmy when he would be traveling. And, but the vibe in the shelter was just amazing. Like, just amazing. Like, it was after hours, and it would go on. And Timmy just has a way of like creating moments in his music. Like he makes people go into a frenzy, and then knows how to take them back down, and then do it all over again. You know, I was fortunate enough to when I played there and did the guest spot, the promoter from Japan's girlfriend was there, and she contacted the boyfriend, which was the promoter, and told him the next day, you better bring him to Japan.
Wow.
Yeah, you better. Like, I don't even want to hear it. You better bring him. Yeah. So the shelter has been instrumental in my career for that, and just being asked to play in Timmy's place, that to me was an honor, you know, because the shelter is his home. That is his home. That is his foundation. And when an other DJ who has a residency asks you to play for them, because they must respect your work and must respect who you are. Or they wouldn't ask you.
Right. And then what is Body and Soul for those that don't know?
Okay, so Body and Soul started from Club Vinyl, which was Aries too. I forget all the clubs that they all had They all named different names, but they was a lot of them were just the same place with a different name. So it started off as a Sunday tea dance, and tea dances are from on a Sunday from maybe 3 until 11, something like that. And it took a while to get off the ground, but Body and Soul was Danny Krivit, Francois Kevorkian, and Joe Cosell. Those were the 3 DJs. And what's the British guy who was the promoter?
John Davis.
Yeah, John Davis was the promoter, and Evelyn was Evelyn, and she helped promote the club. And it's like I said, it took a while to. I was going in from the very beginning, and I watched it grow. And it's very eclectic. It's a little bit of everybody. It's very similar to Danny Krivit, but Danny's one of the DJs there. It's very similar to his party, but it became more worldwide renowned than Danny's party. And so they have traveled in the past and done 2-day events where there are thousands of people, because each one of them brings something different to the table. And so because of that, they're playing throughout the set back and back. Like maybe one will play 1 or 2 records, and the other one will play 2 or 3, and they're playing back off of each other. And each one of them come with their own sound. But when they come together like that, for some, it doesn't always happen, but in most cases, they vibe to the point where it creates such a magical kind of set, because each one is special and unique in their own way, and then they all come together as one. And it's just really it has become a worldwide event. But yeah.
And I also noticed that the crowd at Body and Soul was more mixed, where the crowd at Shelter was more black. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's a very fair assessment. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Wait a minute. What's going on with my phone? Oh, okay, sorry. Mm-hmm. So why was it like that?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of things. When Body and Soul and the Shelter at one point were in the same space. They were at Club Vinyl. Yeah. And Timmy always had more of a strong black following. He always did. It's always been that way. Whereas Body and Soul at one point did an article in New York Magazine. I don't know if they had asked for the people to come and do it, but as soon as they did it, it brought more of the trendy white models and fashion people and producers. It kind of put them on the map to be like an in place to go to the party on a Sunday afternoon, because there were no Sunday afternoon parties that were, getting that much exposure. So I personally think that a lot of it came from that article, because I watched it. The article, and as soon as and right before the article, you saw it happening. But Timmy followers are Timmy followers. They're devoted. They ain't going. They might come visit another place, but they were going to go to the Shelter to hear Timmy. But I think that's the reason why, because that article kind of shifted things for them.
And then talk to us about the dancing at Shelter. I feel like Shelter people came to sweat.
Yeah, they get funky. Yeah. Well, there's more circle dancing at a Shelter function than there is at a body and soul. And when I say the circle dance, it's like people will get in a circle, and each, the guy or girl, each one will show their talent off to the circle, you know. And so then another person may come into the circle and bring their creative, you know, moves. And so it's kind of like it's a battle, but it's not a battle with anger or it's a battle with love. They're showing each other love, and it's a competition, but it's not a competition. Like nobody comes out being a winner from, you know, doing the circle dance. You come out feeling a part of.